Hello and welcome to the Columbia Daily Tribune's Behind the Stripes football webcast. This is Tribune sports editor Joe Walljasper along with Tribune football beat writer Dave Matter. Dave, Missouri now sitting at 3-4, 0-4 in the SEC. So it seems like they're probably here at a crossroads here during the bye week, whether they're going to be able to make something of the season, make their 8th straight bowl game, or not. I think they've kind of been in this position at various points as recently as last year when they got it back together. On the other hand, you can think of a year like 2004 where there were some high expectations for a team and some early adversity, and then they just went in the tank. Your opinion, do you think this team is more like that 2004 team or more like last year's team?
Well, I think the result's probably going to look more like 04, but I don't think they'll necessarily get there the same way. That team started off 4-1, and then they lost 5 in a row. And almost all of those losses, they kind of looked like the Georgia game. Missouri played pretty well. They were leading at halftime for the most part. Momentum seemed to be in their favor, and then they just collapsed in the second half. And it happened every week in a row. And obviously the competition wasn't as good every week than it was against Georgia about a month ago. But that's kind of the script they followed. This year, I think just the way the schedule sets up, I think they have some chances to win some games. I don't think they're going to go on this awful streak. But they're probably looking at being 4-5 in a couple weeks. That with Kentucky coming here, Kentucky's abysmal right now, and then they go to Florida, and I don't think anybody expects Missouri to win that game. So they're going to be sitting at probably 4-5 with 3 games left, at Tennessee, at home against a pretty bad Syracuse team, and then at Texas A&M. So that's what they're looking at. I don't think it's very similar to last year when they were in the same boat, 3-4. But they had some real winnable games down the stretch, more than just they do this year. They had a really bad Texas Tech team came in here. Obviously, they had a game against Kansas. Texas wasn't as good a year ago when Missouri finally beat them, and they also had a game at Texas A&M, and they were kind of struggling a little bit. So scenarios are different, but I wouldn't be surprised if the outcome looks the same as 04.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that would concern me if I were Missouri about where this is headed this year. One is when you have a pretty big disparity between what one group on the team is doing and what another is. When your offense is really stinking and your defense is playing pretty well just to keep you close in games, I think as the year goes on that can become a problem. Seemed like after the Alabama game, Sheldon Richardson had a little bit of frustration with what the offense
had been playing. That's what he said. We got to score over and over again.
Period. And maybe it becomes more of a factor, I think, when it is the offense that is having the problem. It's a little more frustrating because when the defense is having the problem, then you're still seeing various offensive guys are getting all their touches and glory, and they're all having the time of their lives. But when your offense is struggling, then you've got a lot of guys who are kind of used to being stars, and none of them are having a very good time. So they're not happy. The defense isn't happy that the offense is not giving them any support and putting them upset. So I think that's where you can find some trouble, if there is going to be trouble. The other similarity to 2004, I think as I recall that year, that was a year where everybody blamed Dave Christensen for trying to turn Brad Smith into a passing quarterback, and there was kind of, as the year went on, just got to be ratcheted up angst about the offensive coordinator. And I think you're seeing some of that this year, the same thing, and I think that can wear on a team a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that year, as bad as Brad Smith was throwing the ball, he was completing about 15% of his passes better than Corbin Bergstresser is right now. So I think they'd be happy to have the 2004 offense right now. Things are just so bad. And like you said, you're just starting to see the defensive guys get publicly frustrated. You have to figure they've been frustrated for a while, but now you're starting to hear a little bit more. Maybe that'll simmer down over the bye week, and everybody will kind of get on board for one game against Kentucky, and then we'll see what they do down the stretch. But yeah, I mean, talking about the offense struggling, 2 of those last 3 games, one of which they're probably going to have to win to go to a bowl game, is Tennessee and Texas A&M. Those teams can score 40 points pretty easily, and even if their defenses are bad, I don't know if Missouri has an offense that can score 40 points against anybody. So those games, it's just going to be hard to keep pace.
Yeah, I think you could put a bunch of pylons out there and they would fall over them before they could score 40 points.
Yeah.
I just don't think they can play catch that well. I mean, when you look at the good Missouri teams in this offense, they're completing 66 to 70% of their passes, and it's more like flipped. I mean, 30%.
Yeah.
So that's no good. And then the other thing is the third down convergence has been just the real eye-catching stat this year. Alabama it was 2 for 15, but it's like that's become just so common to see on the stat sheet. It just sort of, that's kind of what we expect.
And early on in the year, coaches, the players, media kept focusing on, well, first and second down, they're struggling on, they're putting themselves in third down situations. But they just got to get better in the third down situations. You know they're going to happen, and they just have no answers at all.
All right, well, we'll talk a little bit about what we would change if we were the coaches and had a bye week to try to tinker with this team in tomorrow's webcast.